Good morning over at LC Middle School students. This is Mr. Woolley, and we're going to have a little bit of a review over a couple things today. All right, and remember, the information contained in this video is intended to be viewed only by the students in Mr. Woolley's classroom. By watching the video, you agree that you will not record or share the video with anyone who's not a student in Mr. Woolley's classroom. All right, first step, we're going to work with one-step equations for today to begin. Later on, we'll work with distributive property, but just a refresh of some things you learned last year. Now, I know a lot of you guys could just do this stuff in your head, but that's not the point, because eventually you're going to get harder problems and multi-step problems and stuff, so you want to just understand the process of what we're doing here. In an equation, you're going to have a variable, which is a letter of some sort, A, B, C, D, E, all the way up to X, Y, Z. Some letter will be in there. Eventually you get to problems where there's more than one letter in there for variables. But for now, we got one-step equations. I have m plus 8 equals 30. Now the process behind this is we want to get the variable by itself, all right? Because you eventually want m equals an answer. How do I do this? Instead of adding 8, I do the opposite. The opposite of adding 8 is subtracting 8. Now, since this originally, m plus 8, was supposed to be equal to 30, I have to keep everything equal. So if I made this adjustment, this change of minus 8, the minus 8 needs to happen on this side too. And at this point, I eliminate the 8's because the positive 8 and negative 8 are 0, of course. And then 30 minus 8 is 22. So m equals 22. Now you can always go back and double check your answers here. 22 plus 8, yes, that equals 30. Over here, I have c minus 14 equals 44. Well, I want to get the CL by itself, so the opposite of subtracting 14 is to add 14. And I'll do that to both sides. And a minus 14 and a positive 14 are 0. Those eliminate each other. 44 plus 14 gives you 58. And if you double check your work, 58 minus 14 is 44. Now, how's this work when it's multiplication? Remember from earlier this year a little bit, letters and numbers when they're smashed together means multiplication. So it's actually 4 times y. Now, how do you get rid of that 4 here? Well, 4 times y equals 16, so I want to divide by 4. So 4 divided by 4 gives me 1, and of course 1 times y doesn't give you anything different. You have to divide by 4 on this side, and then 4 divided by 4 cleared out this side here. I'm left with just the y. 16 divided by 4 was 4. If you double check, 4 times 4 would give you 16. Now, there's a few different ways you'll see division written out. Sometimes it's like what I have here, the slash, h slash 3 means h divided by 3, or it actually has the division symbol, h divided by 3, or sometimes it's in a fractional format, h divided by 3 that way. So a couple different ways you're going to see these kind of problems on occasion. But in this case, h divided by 3 equals 18. I want to get rid of the divide by 3 by doing the opposite, multiply by 8, multiply by the 3. So a divide and a multiply cancel each other out. You're left with just the h. 18 times 3 is 54. If you want to double check your work, 54 divided by 3, yes, that is 18. All right, one-step equations. Don't cheat yourself because we'll get to harder level equations soon enough. So make sure you follow the process. Now our distributive property here. When you're asked to distribute, you're asked to just work on one side of an equation in this situation here. It's 2 times, and there's a quantity in here, 2x plus 5. What I want to do is make sure I multiply 2 to each part inside the equation. 2 times 2x gives me 4 of the x's. 2 times 5 gives me 10. So 4x plus 10 is my final answer when I've distributed here. 6 times j minus 2. Well, 6 times j just gives me 6j. 6 times, I'm going to treat that like a negative 2. 6 times a negative 2 gives me a negative 12, or what we'll say 6j minus 12. Similar scenario there. All right, we do get negatives involved in these scenarios too. A negative 4 times a positive 3n. Negative times positive gives me a negative answer, so negative 12n. And a negative 4 times, and we're treating this like a negative 6. Negative times a negative is positive. 4 times 6 is 24, so it's negative 12n plus a 24 here. Now sometimes they're written like this. I know in IXL they'll do this to you a lot, where they'll have a distributive situation where they got the grouping inside here first, and then you have the multiplication number on the outside. What I like to do is I just like to rearrange those. Instead of having that times 4 hanging out on the end, let's just move it out front like we normally would. 4 times 7k gives me 28k, and 4 times, I'm going to treat this like a -8, gives you a -32. So 28k minus 32. So, all right, so there will be a little bit of practice for you in Schoology over these kind of materials. So go ahead and hopefully take a good look at these, review anything if you need to, and then give your work a try in Schoology.